You're tuning into the High Performance Path podcast, and I'm your host, Alex. If you want to increase your productivity, enhance your mental performance, hack your sleep, and build a bulletproof body, then you're in the right place. Get ready as we dive into interviews with performance coaches, business owners, and health professionals to find out their daily routines, habits, and movement practices. Alright, let's go. So tell us a bit about who you are and what you do.
Yeah, my name's Bill Burnett, and I'm a breathwork practitioner, or I guess more specifically, we work predominantly with healing trauma through conscious breathwork. Yeah,
Let's dive into breathwork a little bit.
yeah, I love it.
So how's breathwork changed your life?
So initially, when I got into breathwork, I was focusing more from an athletic standpoint. I wanted to increase my performance in whatever I was doing in terms of training. Primarily, I was focused more on weightlifting, CrossFit styled workouts, so functional fitness. And then I started getting into triathlons, and I was shit at swimming, like horrible at swimming.
Yep, me too.
And so, like, my stress response in the pool was like, holy shit, you're going to drown, even if it was like a 25-meter freestyle.
Yeah.
And so I found myself so fatigued after maybe 300 meters just from like going through, like, just trying to strengthen it out through my mind. And I was like, man, there's got to be something else to this. And so I was like, all right, well, maybe I'll try some breath work and do some underwater stuff. And that I got better. Like, you do breath holds and whatnot, you get better at swimming. But
So
it's
was that just breath holds, or was
breath
it stuff outside of the
both.
breath holds in the water and out of the water?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I do dry statics, and then I do water statics as well, or holds under the water. And then I started doing dynamic stuff. And then I was getting deep into that, and then found this guy who was running a course on the Gold Coast, and it was this instructor course on how to facilitate ocean survival or surf survival, and build confidence in the water.
Is he well known?
He's pretty well known. So he runs a business called Survival Apnea Australia. His name's Jason Rice. Super rad dude. Really, really experienced in and around law enforcement, kind of military style training,
Cool.
with underwater confidence. And so I hooked in, bought the ticket, went up there, and I was like shit scared. I didn't know why, but I was like shit scared. And I was like, fuck, I'm not going to do well on this course. And I was like self doubt.
How
Did
long was it? Like 2 days?
2 days,
Over the
yeah.
weekend?
Yeah, it was 2 days. Flew up, went and did it, and like kind of surprised myself. Prior to that performance style of breathing, I was just doing meditation breath work, right? Like exploring the conscious mind, I'd watch hours of Joe Dispenza and meditation in that regard. And so I'm trying to transfer these like holistic spiritual practices into the pool. And I didn't make that connection until recently, but long story short, I went and did the course, become qualified as an instructor.
Oh, cool.
And
Was that what the course was for, to become a instructor?
the first day was just about attending and like witnessing and observing essentially breath work and within the water environment as well. Like building confidence, right? Like the main client, I guess you say, are surfers, swimmers, ocean swimmers.
Mhm.
Get better at hold downs. Like you come off a wave, you get held down.
Mm.
Let's get better at that.
Yep.
Get more confident at that.
Yeah, because some of those big wave surfers, they stay under the water for a long time, and that's something that they have to practice, breath
Yeah.
holding and staying calm.
And it's so uncertain.
Yeah.
And like anything can change. Like underwater, the environment can change like that.
Mm.
Like you might go down, but the wind might get knocked out of you when you go down.
Yeah, and then you're starting like already not with a full breath.
Yeah.
Panic starts,
Yes.
heart rate rises.
Triggers that sympathetic response.
Mm-hmm.
And so all of a sudden you're in this survival state before you can even think, oh shit, what am I doing with my breath? And so, yeah, did the course the first day, enjoyed it.
Did you get
And
a
then
lot out of it?
got so much out of the first day. And it was like, that was when I tried to do that like transferability of spiritual breath practice into the water, and it just wasn't working for me. And so I was like, all right, well, you're a surfer. I've been surfing since I was 7 years old. And I was like, all right, you're a surfer. Just be a surfer and just learn and make it that relative. So the next day, going into the instructor course, kind of like we knew each other, and that was really cool. And but like there's these free divers that were a part of it as well, and they were like gun, and they still are like gun free divers. And so it was good to lean on them within the water environment to go. They'd be like, "Hey, do this." And you're like, "Oh, okay, cool." And then all of a sudden you're going from like a minute and a half breath hold to like a 3 minute hold.
Oh, well.
You're like, "No shit, like that's crazy."
Yeah.
And so after that, I left and we ran a couple courses through our own business through Harvest, and then I went and assisted Jace as well with some courses in Geelong, and that was pretty cool too. And then I was like, oh shit, there is something deeper to this breath. There is something deeper to breath work. There is something more in tuned with our DNA that we're not really recognizing. And then look, there are some people around the world that are performing at that level, and no, like it's not like it's a hidden secret, but it's like it's untapped thing. And so I started exploring breathwork deeper, like, and I was combining everything. And
Mm-hmm.
then all of a sudden, I was making these like transitional changes from like these old patterns of behavior to like a newer version, like an updated version. And like I'd come home and my wife would be like, she'd make these comments. She'd be like, "Oh, the old you would have done this or whatever," And so I started to know like tangible results. And I'm like, "Oh shit, this
Yeah.
is cool."
What types of breath work were you kind of experimenting with when these changes started to happen?
So I went balls deep in holotropic breath,
Yeah.
like shamanic breathing,
Yeah.
like real high intensity, cathartic.
I've heard about that.
Super addicted to like the feel of it. Like, and you've experienced that, right? Like you do a breath retention, you're like, oh, you're kind of high.
Yeah, I've experienced that with like Wim Hof.
Yeah.
I don't know what the proper term for it is. I think it's similar to holotropic breathing.
Yeah.
There's like that sensation that you get when you hold the breath,
Yeah.
that kind of feeling.
That like physiological response of like arms are tingling, temperature
Tingles.
change,
Yeah.
lightheadedness. But it's not like an uncontrolled lightheadedness. It's
Mm.
like this kind of feels good,
Yeah.
and so yeah, I was doing that heaps, and then I was getting into
Is this like daily?
daily.
Yeah.
Too much.
Too much.
Too much, man.
Well, you got to see where the line is
Yeah,
in order to know where the line is.
where
You got
it
to
is.
cross it to see where the line is.
Exactly
So,
right. And for each person, like the line's different, right?
yeah.
Like, and so you can breathe too much. And so I found that. But what I was witnessing is these altered states of consciousness. And in that zone, I was finding like these skills for self-development. And I was like, whoa, come out of meditation. My wife would be like, whoa, you're in there for a while. I'm like, yeah, but I only did breath work for maybe about 15, 20 minutes. And then all of a sudden, I'm like in this 45-minute zone of just like flow state. Like just everything's coming, seeing things before they're happening, raising my vibration to feel what was coming so that I could meet it with my full potential. And then it started becoming tangible in my real life. And I was like, yeah, this is cool. This is real cool. And so I just did further and further study, more courses, more literature, read more books, go down that line. And then we just started designing this application of breath work to help people get into that state firstly, and then become aware of what their life looked like holistically. And we can go into this further a bit later, but this rabbit hole of trauma, like I'll probably use that term a fair bit during this, but it's like this idea of not recognizing our story and then just living life through compensatory behaviors or just ways to overcome adversity because I don't want to deal with my shit. And so we were starting to design these breathwork practices in order to get humans into that space and have them go, oh shit, that happened to me when I was like X age.
Mm.
And now it makes sense why I live this way. And then we're seeing like these real big transformational changes. And so that grew and it grew and grew and grew. And then we started working one on one with people. And we're noticing people showing up and they're like, hey, I have X condition. Like, okay, cool. I'm check holistic lifestyle coach background. So it was more about seeing the body holistically. And so I'd work with these people and go, all right, cool. So like nutritionally, we can look at this, movement, we can look at this, water, all these types of things. And then it's be like, all right, well, let's explore your birthing journey. Let's explore what your generational trauma looks like. Let's explore what your childhood looks like, right? And so these ailments that people were presenting with essentially were a result or a direct correlation to the generational trauma or the birthing trauma that was prevalent in their life.
Yeah, I have heard that some trauma that can happen during birth
Yes.
can stay with you your whole life,
Like through mum or like,
or either.
yes, yeah,
But I mean, no one remembers the day they were born.
right.
So I guess it could be hard to even know that there was or has been any trauma. So
Yes.
do you find has stuff come up for people that they didn't even know was there related to trauma around the birth?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Specifically, how mum was going through the birth itself,
Mm.
or maybe even the gestational period.
Yeah, because there's a lot that when you're the, like if the mother while pregnant experiences foods they eat or stress or trauma that can transfer to the child. I, I've
Yes,
I've
through
I've
utero.
heard anyway. I don't know too
Yes.
much about that, so I'm not going to dive into that too much. But
Yeah.
I know that it can happen, and it's to some extent does happen.
Yes.
So
And a bit deeper down that is you now start to talk about the environment kind of signaling the genes, right? And like mum, she's pregnant, nutrition's playing a big role, right? That's still part of the environment. It's a language part of the environment. Stress, so external stress, relationship, social setting, financial setting, like that is an external language that is playing a role during gestation. And so that stress is being culminated within the body, manifested within the body, whatever you want to call it. And so now transferred through utero into the baby. There's plenty of literature and arguments that get a bit controversial in terms of like the first 10,000 days, the developmental framework of a child, right? And the first 10,000 days is essentially how we learn the world, how we perceive ourselves in the world. And we might not remember a great deal of it, but as adults or younger adults, we can almost track it back to a point of, well, shit, every single relationship I've been in has failed because of X. And now I'm the common denominator. And why is that? And it's like, well, in that first 10,000 days or even outside, it's like, well, your life, you were taught to love in this certain way or receive love in this certain way.
mm,
Right. And so that becomes the conditioning, that becomes the programming. And this is probably a good moment to say this is where breathwork changed my life. Like, it was like, well, I didn't have a bad childhood at all. I had super loving parents, I had really good siblings, played a lot of sport, went to really good schools. And it probably wasn't the point of on the home front, but it was more the conditioning around what was the environments that I was growing up in, right? And so I sat with breath and I'd get into those altered states. And then that sparked my interest into other things. And then I started with, I'd sit ceremonially with plant medicines and I'd be down that road with shamans and be like, oh shit, all these things coming through from my mom. And like these guides would be like, yeah, this is generational trauma. Like the story of your mom is coming through for you to witness. And so when I started changing those things and recognizing them, it might have been breath work, it might have been plant medicine, it might have even just been an acknowledgement of the programming. It's like, well, I'm aware of that now, and I can make sure that that doesn't occur anymore and behave in such a way that's going to push me forward rather than pull me back and hold on to that
mm.
trauma,
At least you're bringing awareness to it is the first step to changing something, I guess.
right?
Because so many people just live on autopilot
Yeah.
without even realizing that they're gaining weight or living unhealthy
Mm,
or carrying trauma that's happened from a certain point in their life.
yeah.
So bringing awareness to these things is the first step to then changing or improving.
Improving it. And, well, at least creating a pathway forward,
Mm,
right? Like, and acknowledging that. I think I become quite controversial when I say this, but I always say, we're not predisposed to anything. Sure, you will look like your parents in some regard and your
mm,
siblings. Yeah, sure. And like our skin color or our features are specific to the environment that our heritage had grown around,
yeah.
right? Yes, these are predispositions. But you're not predisposed to sickness. You're not predisposed to being fat. You're not predisposed to these things. You're predisposed to a story. And that story now becomes a language, right? If your mum and dad are fat and now you're fat, well, it's not I'm going to let myself off the hook and justify a poor eating behavior because my mum and dad were fat. It's like, well, no, your mum and dad didn't know nutrition correctly. And so they taught you what they thought was the best. And now your result is their bad habit. And it's not pointing fingers, it's not right or wrong. It's just like this story being passed forward. And so you become predisposed to a behavior or a language. And so it's the same with trauma, right? Like People who have cancer, like I work with people currently and have previously who have suffered from cancer. All thus far have been in remission and stayed in due to the work that we've been doing. It's like, well, my mum had it, my grandma had it, then I've got it. Well, not necessarily. Think back to when you were a kid and mum was diagnosed. What was the language around mum having cancer? Well, it was talked about. You're going to have it because I have it. And same with grandma. Grandma had it. Well, you're going to have it because I've got it. And now that bit's passed through. And so the gene or the environment signaling the gene is like, well, now my body and my nervous system is believing that it's possible. And so it starts to interact with that idea. You will have it. And you're like, you got a bad dog. You tell a bad dog it's bad for however long. Well, what's it going to be? It's going to be a bad dog. It ain't going to be a good dog. Right. And so the language starts to impact. And until you like address these traumas, it's just like a big ass anchor. Like it just holds on, and we get stuck in this rut. It creates disease in the body, and then disease long term turns into disease. And then all of a sudden we're like, fuck, why have I got all these ailments? Oh no shit, you didn't clean house and sort your shit. And it's not right or wrong, it's not bad or good. It's just like, well, now you're aware. And like you said, like awareness is the first step.
Yeah. All right, awesome. So you mentioned, I just want to get a bit of your background.
Yeah.
I know you were a PDI
Yes.
in the military.
Yes.
What were you before that?
Before
And-
PDI?
Yeah. were you
Logistics.
Logistics in the
Yeah.
military.
Yeah.
Cool. So for those that don't know, PDI, what does that stand for?
Physical training instructor.
Yeah, in
Yeah.
the military. And how long were you a PDI?
I think 5 years, maybe 4 or 5 years, something like that.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
So I used to be in the RAAF as well.
Yeah.
We've actually got a few mutual friends that were
Yeah.
in the RAAF. Yeah.
Yeah.
You were on deployment with a lot of the
My last
guys that I
deployment.
was working with.
Yeah.
Yeah. So was your decision to leave the military, what was your reasoning behind leaving? Was it your choice or was it not your choice to leave?
So it's a bit of both.
Yeah.
So initially, I was asked to leave. Right. I was target tested for sports performance drugs or whatever they want to call them, and come up positive. Right. I've been taking SARMS, selective androgen receptor modulators, for an injury that I was carrying, and that the medical system was not going to recognize because I was playing sport outside of the military. So within the military, you want to play external sport, you got to apply, right? Because at risk of injury, now the military loses your capability, or you as a capability. And so I was playing sport. I was approved to play sport, but I was playing sport, got injured, right? Had this hectic injury. I was then the only one in my section, was required to fulfill my duties every day, and the injuries were limiting me. So I decided I was going to take off-the-shelf SARMs, right? Just like a testosterone booster.
Yeah. You could just buy, can you still buy them?
Yeah, it's still the same one on the shelf, and anyone can buy them.
In like in a shop?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know you can.
Yeah.
I know at one point you could buy them in a shop and online.
Yeah.
and they become really popular.
Well, SARMs as well, like there's kind of like a little niche market where these pseudo doctors are getting on and saying, "I'll write you a prescription," and then you get these SARMs delivered to you, and now you're kind of like not justified, but you're kind of licensed to take them because of said description.
Right.
It's a bit of like it's more a money thing, right?
Yeah.
But mine was just like, you know what? I'd taken test boosters before, but not like this, right? My aim was to recover and repair my body. I was like passionate about my job. I was passionate about the people I was training, and I wanted to fulfill my capabilities. So I was like, I need to get back on the job, and so I started taking it through, a series of conversations that had occurred between me and another individual. It was overheard by someone else within the section, and that was passed on to our commanding officer. Target tested, come up positive, and I was given 4 weeks to fight the case. It was like, here you go. Legal support, and it's not really legal support, it's like here. Legal support. And so I sought legal advice, and I got to about the 3rd week, and they still wanted me to go to work. Like, they still wanted me to show up and, like, really drain the last bit of sauce out of me. And I got to the 3rd week, and my wife was pregnant at the time with our first child, and I was stressed, man. Like, I was so stressed. Like, this is like a 13-year career, right? And I'd never done anything wrong. I was good at my job, really enjoyed it. And so for me, it wasn't this fear of being kicked out. It was this fear of what does my identity look like beyond this? Because I'd been this identity for so long.
And that's who you were.
That's who I was, right? And that we can come back to this. It's a big thing for people leaving the military, right? It's like you become this person, people treat you as this person, and then when you leave, you're no longer this person. You don't fit into that jigsaw puzzle anymore.
Yeah.
It's like, well, what do my curvy edges look like now? I don't know who I am, and so that becomes, you know, long story short, yeah, I tried to fight it, didn't win, and I got given the decision. Hey, you make this decision on your own, make it easy for yourself, or we kick you. I was like, all right, fair enough. Went to medical, went through all the processes, decided I'd leave myself, left the military. Best thing that ever happened to me, right? It was hard. Like the first year, within 3 weeks after that, my wife had miscarried. Well, we thought we'd miscarried. We'd had twins. She'd miscarried one. The other one stayed. I now have a beautiful boy. But there was a lot of stress, which is a big part of my story with the work that I do.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, oh shit, I need to find a job. I need to make some money, you know? And so I went and applied for an F45 job.
Yep.
And I became like the head coach at this F45. And it was dope. Like it was cool. I don't agree with the F45 framework because I feel the coaching's fairly loose for the complexity of the movements that we're giving to generalized humans. But it was good as an experience because it was like, well, all right, I can shift gears now from being this identity to something a bit different. And as you know, when you leave the military, you get a bit more autonomy. It's like, well, shit, like I don't have to shave anymore. I can just, do freedom, right? Like it's this idea of freedom. And so I enjoyed that aspect and it became good. And then I transferred from that F45 to another. And then from there, I was like, man, I can't do this anymore. I find I'm waking up most days stressed about going to work because I don't agree with the framework that's being applied. And someone said to me, why don't we start a gym? I mean, you got all the experience, we'll start a gym. And so I started a gym. I opened up a gym in Sydney and that's where it took me. So being in the military and closely, related to the military space, most of my clients at my gym were military. So it was like I became a PTI in the civilian world.
Oh, yeah.
But it was more holistic practices. But it was the best thing that ever happened to me.
Nice.
It was incredible.
That's good.
Yeah.
Going back on SARMS, did you find that they did help for recovery?
Yes. So the biggest thing, and this is what I tell people when they say, hey, what should I take supplements? I don't think you need to take any supplements. You should be happy in your body no matter what. And what supplements you don't use, you should be getting from food. You should be supplementing your intake from food and water, right? If you are lower in areas, it's not necessarily that you need to take something exogenous. It's like, well, look at your lifestyle. What's going on? And that's where we come into biohacking and that kind of stuff. But the thing about SARMS, and we briefly discussed this before, is you might gain some muscle if that's your outcome, right? You might gain some muscle. The biggest thing is recovery, right? It's like repairing the body exponentially faster than what the body can because it's binding to the receptors in the body, or at least binding to the hormones that are in the body and creating a stronger, more efficient process, right? Androgen 1 is found in the testicles. And when taken exogenously, it now becomes this testosterone that comes up on tests. And so I found that my body recovered faster. I didn't get bigger. Like I'm maybe 80 kilos at best. The biggest I think I've ever been was 89, 90 kilos. And it was because I was lifting all the time and eating all the time. No amount of supplements are going to make you that big unless you put in the work.
Yeah.
My intention was get better, heal, right? So I could do my job. Unfortunately, that got taken away, but fortunately, it was the best thing that could ever happen.
Yeah, blessing in disguise.
Right.
Yeah,
Band-aid effect, but it was good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You mentioned biohacking just before.
Yeah.
So I want to know your own definition of what biohacking is, like your own definition.
My own definition. To me, biohacking is understanding your body holistically and the story to which it comes from. Now, I can get pretty spiritual and woo-woo and might lose a few of your listeners, but when we talk about our soul coming into our body or our soul coming into this life, it's like it's coming into this next part of its journey. It's had thousands of journeys before. This body works in a way that is aligned with the vibration that I have. Now, we can go into, blue light emittance, eating carnivore, drinking water with salt in it, with special vortex things that happen. Like, yes, that all is great for the body, and you can hack your biology to create better health. Yes, you can. But what else does the life look like? What else does your lifestyle look like? Right? I can get 8 hours of sleep every night, but if I'm watching Netflix right before I go to bed, it's kind of like voiding it, you know? I can eat predominantly carnivore all week and then just smash beers all weekend. Now what? You know, I can invest in this and being in the sun and being in the environment, doing meditation and breath work. But if I'm super fucking stressed from financial or social stress, then there's no give, right? There's no
Counter
it counteracts it. And so for me, biohacking is understanding your body holistically and what works for your body, which is why there's no diet that is the fix all.
Mm-hmm.
There is no workout program that is the fix all. There's no biohack that is the fix all. It's just a matter of going, all right, well, what is my body? What does it look like? How do I feel in my body? And how present can I be with that? Like that's the real biohack, right? Understanding it.
I love it.
Yeah.
It seems like you've done a lot of deep diving into your own um, physical, mental, and spiritual kind of understanding,
Right.
which is awesome. Because I feel like too many people are living without any understanding of who they are, what they really want,
Mm,
like not even knowing about their body, like
mm,
what foods are good for them, what like so many people are just living on autopilot and just don't know anything about their own body.
yeah.
And it's kind of like if you look at society, so everything's done for us.
Mm.
There's something wrong, we just go to the doctor. We don't need to know anything. All
We're
we
gonna
need to,
fix it.
yeah,
Yeah.
all we need to know is like how to make money, and then we use money for everything, to buy our food, to go to the doctor, everything. It's like we've lost a lot of fundamental human skills,
Mm.
like hunting. I know you do a bit of hunting. I
Yeah.
want to ask you a little bit about that later.
Yep.
But stuff like that, we don't need to know how to farm and how to, plant things and grow veggies. We don't need it. All we need to know is something that's going to make us money, and then we use that for everything.
Yeah.
So we're just a lot of people just don't understand their own body very much.
Mm. And being present with their body.
Mm.
You see people rocking up to the gym, taking these fad diets, and it's like, well, I am moving in this direction, and that's great. But what direction did you come from? Like it'd be fine for us to sit here and go, we're going to do carnivore diet for the next month, and we're going to be shredded as hell. We're going to be like heaps of energy, and we're going to do all these things that all these crazy carnivore doctors say. That's great. But where do we come from? Where does our blood come from? Like my heritage is mostly British, right? When we go back a couple generations, what did the meat source or animal source look like in that demographic?
Mm.
Were my heritage, were they actually available to get it? Like, you look socioeconomic. It's fine saying the carnivore diet's going to work for you, and I'm not picking on that one. It's the same with vegan and vegetarian. It's the same as all of it. Like, it's fine to say it's going to work for you, but without knowing all the other lifestyle factors, well, you're not becoming present with who you are, where you come from, and what it looks like to go forward. And you said, like, people are just being told what to do, and they're happy with that. We believe in this, 9 to 5. It works for some people, but like, what about the things that you actually love? Oh, I can't do that. That's a hobby.
Mm.
Why is that a hobby? Why not do what you love? Why not wake up every morning and do what you love? Like we spoke about that yesterday. You're like, when I left, like I want to do what I love doing.
Mm.
So why not? And here you are, you're doing it. I'm doing it. It's
Yeah.
like, it's not like it's impossible to do.
No.
It just becomes a matter of prioritizing what is important.
And how bad do you want to do it?
Exactly.
How bad do you really want it?
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you heard of seasonal affective disorder, SAD?
No.
So that is when it's common with darker skinned people who live in like the northern regions of the world,
Right.
because when you're further away from the equator, there's less sunlight in winter
Right.
and more sunlight in summer. And darker skinned people, being from closer to the equator, their ancestors got more sunlight.
Right.
And so these people are living not really where their heritage is, not getting enough sunlight, and that can affect them. They don't get enough sunlight. So they kind of need to supplement
Yeah.
with vitamin D and things like that.
Yeah.
Some people just don't even know, but that is a related to what you were talking about before, about understanding where your heritage is, where you've come from, what was their diet and lifestyle like,
That's exactly right.
what's going to really suit you,
Yeah.
you know.
And they're the lifestyle factors that you'd have to consider.
Mm,
And it makes sense. Like they're closer to the sun, closer to getting sun during the day. Of course, the skin's going to be darker.
mm,
Like that's what the sun is doing. Like it's creating a reaction with the melanin in our skin,
mm,
and then now it becomes like this protective or self-preservation tool in terms of the environment signaling the gene.
mm.
Which is what we are talking about before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I want to talk a bit about your kind of daily routines and habits and stuff.
Yeah.
So other than breath work, what's something that you put in your daily routine that to make sure that you're staying fit and healthy?
So first part of my day, and it recently just took a bit of a side turn. A good friend of mine actually reminded me that the first 90 minutes of my day is set on me, right? Like I'm a father of four, married. We obviously run a business, my wife and I. But what I was reminded of, and what I originally told myself, is that if I'm not giving to myself in the first 90 minutes of the day, then the rest of my life's not going to be adequate either.
Rest
If
of
I'm
the day,
rest of my day or my life,
all that.
right? Like if I'm setting my week out, I'm looking at it on a Sunday and I'm looking at each day and what it entails. I'm then going, all right, well, on these days, some are a bit more higher intensity than others. And so I'm requiring more food or more calories, right? Or I'm requiring different meditations or different journaling or different sleep, right? And so I structure my day like that. So the first 90 minutes, I'll get up, um, drink water straight away. It's the first thing I do. I usually make a coffee after that and I'll do some journaling. And it's just whatever is in my mind at that moment, power of the pen, put it on paper, get it out of my head. And I found that's been the crucial thing for me and coping and dealing with stress and anxiety on a daily basis is getting all my thoughts out of here on somewhere else so that I can look at them, right? And see what the language is, see what the words are doing. If it doesn't make sense, it doesn't make sense. But I can guarantee it ain't going to make much more sense up there with 1,000 more thoughts going, right? So I'll journal. I'll then do some breath work or meditation, completely dependent upon how I'm feeling. Like I kind of just ask the body, what are you feeling today? And it's either like 5 minutes of breath, box breathing maybe, or maybe it's 15 minutes of holotropic or tumo breathing, right? And it's like upregulate the system. And then I'll do some gentle movement or what's called like kind of what we call greasing the groove. So it might just be some light primal stuff. I'll do some dancing sometimes. Just move the body. And then by that stage, my kids are up and then I'm into dad mode.
Mm-hmm.
And then come 9 o'clock, work's on. And it's like stuff on the computer. I'll train. And with training at the moment, I'm doing a lot of functional fitness.
Yeah.
But I've got some big projects coming up at the end of the year. So I'll be tailoring most of my training to like running, swimming, bit of riding, but majority of it will be big running.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Are you aiming for like a ultra run or a marathon or something?
I'm going to do a few ultras.
Yeah.
I hadn't done an ultra before until last year. And I live in a place in Victoria, southeast Victoria. We live on a beach that's 90 miles long. And so I set myself this project to run the beach with my mouth taped. Right?
Sick.
And
How many kilometers is 90 miles?
I forget the actual figure. It's like it's between 130 and 150
Yeah.
kilometers. And in between that was this waterway that's pretty gnarly, but I was keen to swim it just because of the like the I don't
Just
know
adding to the challenge.
exactly right. And
How
so
far across is the swim?
it'd be less than 100 meters.
Yeah.
Me sucking at swimming, I was like, I'll wear some fins or something. Maybe I'll do a big breath hold. But I didn't get to that point. So I got about 78 Ks in. I'd done about, I want to say 7 to 8 hours of running. Right. And
Wow.
I'd done 78 Ks. It's all sand. Mouth was taped. And I started to smell this smell. And I just finished a pit stop where I'd like loaded up on some puddings and like a Red Bull.
So
And
your mouth is taped.
yeah.
What about when you eat and drink? You
Untape
untape it for that, and
So
then when you're running, you retape it.
yeah, so when I come in for a pit stop, I'll come in, tape off, and I'll go through a down regulation breath protocol.
Oh yeah.
Bring the body back down.
Yeah.
Once the body has returned, I'll then start to eat or drink, depending.
Is that like box breathing or triangle breathing or something like that?
Triangle usually, and it'll be a nose inhale, pause, mouth exhale. And the idea is to bring my blood gases back to level,
Cool.
right? Because there's a lot of exchange going on during the exercise. And mind you, like I'm not running at a blistering pace. Like it's a long journey.
Yeah.
So you're staggering it so that, the harder parts where the terrain's a bit gnarly, you're putting more effort in, and then the flatter ones, you're kind of just cruising.
Yeah.
And so each leg's a bit different. And so I got to, I think it was about 60 something Ks, and I started to smell this smell. And I'm like, oh shit, that's a very familiar smell. And being my background with sports science, I was like, that kind of smells a bit piss like. And when ammonia smell comes to me, the first thing that triggers is like, my rhabdo, right?
Oh, yeah.
Pretty
Have you
popular.
experienced rhabdo?
Hadn't before.
Yeah. But you just knew what to look for.
Knew the signs, knew where my body was at. Now, mind you, before I did this project, or attempted this project, I did a week and a half of running. And the longest run I did in that week and a half was maybe 10K.
What?
Look, the intention behind this project and the big project, which I can give you a little bit of insight to after, is it's not about my physical application or preparation for the thing. All right, like I can run. I know I can run. My body's a bit banged up, and I'd like to talk about that a bit later, but my body's a bit banged up, but I know I can run. And so it's like, well, let's implement the practices of breathwork, mindset training, and some other things that are going to make sure that you achieve this goal. And so that was the thing. And so we're documenting it. And so I was like doing these down regulation practices, mouth tape. So it's only nose breathing. So it's proving to people you can breathe through your nose. Like it's, it's not impossible. And the performance is better. And so I got to 60, and I had this smell. I'm like, oh shit, that smells familiar. And then my body started to cramp, like all over cramping. I was like, oh, okay. So I walked for a little bit, walked for about 8 Ks, had no phone reception. And I was listening to Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. Like
on that run?
On that run.
Yeah, well.
And like, I remember like sporadically just yelling at the beach, who's going to carry the boat? Just to like keep myself going.
Great book if anyone hasn't read it. Can't Hurt Me, David Goggins.
Fantastic book. Yeah. And I was like, okay, well, I need to pee. Let's see what that looks like. And as soon as I started peeing, it was just Coca-Cola coming out.
Well, that's the sign of rhabdo.
Straight up.
Can you explain what rhabdo is for the listeners?
So rhabdomyolysis is when the interior part of the body or the soft tissue within and around, wherever you're working, breaks down and goes through the blood or goes in through the kidneys and processed out through that. And so it started coming through my piss or my urine, right? And so it usually comes onset from arduous workouts, intense sessions with no preparation. So a lot of people that start CrossFit, maybe it can be a bit common there, and then a lot of like experts that just push themselves too far.
I've seen it
veterans, right?
I've seen it. The only 2 times that I've people that I know have had it.
Yeah.
They've both been from doing pull-ups.
Yeah.
Like a lot of reps of doing heaps of pull-ups, and those biceps just weren't used to that much kind of volume.
Yeah.
In those muscles.
Yeah. Like the smaller muscle groups, break down a lot faster.
Yeah.
Which was weird to me because it wasn't that, like I got prime movers working majority of the beach run, right? Like quads, hammies, glutes.
That you use every day, running.
Every single day. But it become more about the stabilizers, right? Because I'm running on uneven ground.
Yeah, I was going to ask actually, because on sand or on a beach, it's tilted.
Yes, this is a camber to the beach.
So I was going to ask, like, that could be really, that would be really hard to run off, like, on a slight angle.
Yeah.
For that whole time. And you can't just, like, turn around and swap because you've got, you're running from A to B.
Yeah.
So how did you kind of manage that?
Guess where the hard sand is? Right in the middle of the slant.
Yeah.
I had to run right up on the beach.
So on the soft stuff.
Soft sand.
Yeah, okay.
And so that slowed my pace.
That would have been really hard.
Yeah. But like for the first 30K, I was running on the hard stuff in Vivo barefoots. So I was wearing real minimalist shoes, trying to get the most out of my body.
They are like minimalist shoes, like no rise, really thin, really stretchy.
Yeah.
Not stretchy, really flexible.
Yeah. All the way through the sole.
It's like as minimal as you can get, I guess, without wearing socks.
Yes. Yeah.
They're kind of like those 5-finger shoes.
That was my initial plan to wear them.
Yep.
And I was like, oh, maybe I get some rubbing. Like if the sand gets in those toe parts, those toe capsules, I was like, oh, that could rub and that could be bad.
Yeah.
So after about 30 Ks or 36 Ks, like I started to notice my hips playing up, and it was because of that imbalance.
tilt, yeah.
And so I changed shoes. I went to my tri shoes, which are Vaporflies, Nike Vaporflies.
Yeah.
Great shoe, but there's a lot more support, which made it a lot easier to get to where I got to.
Are they the ones that guy just broke the
World record marathon?
marathon record?
Yeah.
They're those ones, hey?
Yeah.
And then after that, weren't they banned from a lot of races?
So they were saying they were like performance enhancing because of the way they would design. I'm like, well, that's how you design shoes.
Yeah.
Like, why would you not design it for performance enhancing?
Yeah.
They're not like if anyone that wasn't a serious runner was wearing them, I would be like, well, what's the point? Unless you just like the look of them. You know, they are made for long distance running. And so I did that. And after I took that piss, I was like, shit. Like my body was ready to keep going. But that was a sign. I was like, it's either, really push through and really do some damage. And how much is this project really worth? Or call your missus and reattempt this another time. And so I called her. And I got in the car. She's like, oh, I smelled bad.
Yeah.
It smelled real bad.
After how many hours was this? Like 9?
Yeah, it would have been about 9 hours by that
9 hours,
stage.
yeah.
And so, and it started to match up. And this probably more let myself off the hook. But where I was at in terms of the last leg was 50 Ks unassisted. So there was no other township on the beach that she could get to. So it was unassisted, and it was going to be at the waterway. And I would have got to the waterway at dark, and the taxi guy was knocked off. And we rang him, and he's like, "No, I ain't coming back out to pick you up. Like, that's crazy. I'm not doing that." And I was like, "Okay, well, it kind of makes me feel a little better, but at the same time, I was like, oh, shit, like I didn't complete it, right?"
Yeah.
And so I'm gonna reattempt that again this year, and then I'm gonna do a big project starting next April next year, and gonna take off from Margaret River and run to Byron Bay.
So Margaret River's Western Australia.
Western Australia.
Byron Bay's like northern New South Wales.
Most eastern point.
Is that the most western point to the most
eastern point?
Yeah,
I'm not sure about that. It is pretty west. Not familiar too much with West.
Regardless, it's like one of the biggest distances in Australia.
It's a great distance to cross.
Yeah.
And the idea, and this is what I wanted to talk about, is when I left the military, like my body was like super banged up.
Yeah, let's dive into that a bit.
Yeah, it was ruined, man. Like I did a few courses and things in the military that really smashed my body up. And at 26 years old, I had gone through hours of bone scans, MRIs, and whatnot when I left the military. I was diagnosed
from?
Like heavy pack marches.
Yeah, pack marches.
Like lots of running, lots of weight training.
Yep.
Just a lot of impact stuff.
Yep.
A lot of down on the ground, crawling, all that kind of shit.
Yeah, fuck, that's not good for your body.
It's not, man.
It's one of the reasons why I left that job, because I had a job where you learn that fire and movement, do a lot of pack marching, crawling through the bush on whatever surface, rocks, sticks, even like concrete in scenarios and stuff.
Yeah.
And I was like, if I keep doing this, my shoulders are going to be fucked.
Yeah.
My knees are going to be fucked. My back's going to be fucked. And
for what?
Yeah, exactly. For like,
for
what reason? Like, and you could see in all like the sergeants, flight sergeants, the older guys, all their bodies were ruined.
They're broken.
So it's like, well, I got to get out of this job before I do too much damage. Luckily, I don't really have anything too bad. I kind of got out at the right time.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's go on.
I was exactly the same. And like I'd look to my peers and like the more experienced peers, and I'd be like, dude, you're the one yelling at me and you're broken. Like it's like yelling bad advice at someone knowing full well it's going to have them fail. And so when I got out and was diagnosed, like I was diagnosed with osteoarthritis and rheumatoid arthritis in most of my body, right? And I was pretty messed. And I was doing things at that time that I shouldn't have been doing that were exacerbating my injuries. Had all the scans, all the reports from doctors, and then I had a few delamination of my glute muscle. I had some...
What's delamination?
So it's like when the muscle was actually pulling apart from itself.
Right, detaching from the insertion
And the fiber itself was just breaking down.
Shit.
And I had cysts in my shoulders and my knees, Baker's cysts. And like these carry like these terminologies. I'm not sure that they're crazy. I was more concerned about the arthritis. And so when I began breath work, I started to notice some physical changes because when I was going deep into those altered states of consciousness, I was practicing what Joe Dispenza would call like heart coherence, or bringing your mind and body into a state where you work in the quantum field. The quantum field being that which has not occurred yet and that which you can put energy towards. And so I would sit in meditation for an hour, sometimes an hour and a half, and I'd be like, all right, let's get inside and start repairing the body. And within, I would say 18 months, I was back hitting 1 RMs, doing long runs, no more arthritis in my body.
Wow.
Just from doing this practice of breath work, meditation, a lot of other holistic lifestyle factors that obviously contribute, but those are the big ones. And so this project that I'm doing in running is to prove that the shit that we're going through or that we're teaching, especially the trauma part, is real. Like, it's not magic. It's not this voodoo hippie shit that people are like, oh yeah, trauma, whatever. Like, this shit works, man. And that's why with this project, we're going to film it. We're going to create a documentary, and we're going to essentially capture each part along the way and just show, like, yeah, it's hard. Of course it's hard. Like, it's very physically hard. But I know a lot of other people that are fucking way worse than I am and still are. And they just want an easy day, you know? And so if you can give that awareness to people that are struggling emotionally, mentally, physically, they can be like, oh shit, okay. Maybe there is some hope, you know?
That's insane. I can't wait for that. So
Yeah,
you
me
said
too.
next April you're going to start that?
Next April, yeah.
Cool. Yeah, it is. Does sound like it's going to be like a lot of planning that's going to go into that, into the lead up. I'm excited. I'm excited, man.
I'm excited, scared.
Yeah.
It's like looking at the map, and when I was like kind of plotting where it's one thing to run like a big distance, to do it back to back to back to back. Like, you're almost running a marathon a day, which you can get to a point of conditioning that can be comfortable. Like, people do that, and that's okay. But then I'm like, all right, well, it becomes now a metaphorical aspect of the journey, going from A to B, or is it the journey? And it's more about the journey. So, I'll do long days and I'll take breaks. And like, I'm going to take my family with me. Nick's going to also probably jump in on it as well.
Cool.
And so we're going to take some days to really just explore the journey. We want to do some work, what we do in and around the Indigenous community, around the middle of Australia, if we can, and just see the lifestyle factors that are occurring there. Have a better awareness and greater understanding and gratitude as well.
Yeah.
To what we're doing.
So who's going with you? The family's going with you?
Family going as well. And then Nick Mayer, he's going to come do some running with us as well.
That's awesome.
And then our video team when they come along as well.
Hectic.
Yeah.
That's awesome, brother.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
So I want to talk about a little bit of self-development stuff.
Yeah.
I want to ask you for a book recommendation for the listeners. Do you have one in mind?
Yes, I have two.
Yeah, let's go through both of them.
The Surrender Experiment by Michael A. Singer.
I've heard of that.
Yeah.
I've heard that title sounds familiar to me.
So he wrote The Surrender Experiment and Untethered Soul.
Yeah.
And both those books are incredible. It changed, the Surrender Experiment changed my life. As a military person, it's like, eat, shit, sleep, and you'll do it when I say you can. Right? So like, it's like this individual sovereignty, autonomy is taken away. And you're like this robot. And people can sit and argue all they want that that's not the case. But we know that's the case. Right? And so when I left, I was in this state of survival purely based upon expectations of what should have been occurring, whether I have the audacity to think for myself, and what I could control, what I couldn't control. I had a lot of anger, I had a lot of resentment, I had a lot of trauma. And so this book follows the story of this young fella, Michael Singer, who's, I think he's about maybe even 70 nowadays. He was this young hippie, and he'd moved to Florida to start this. He like left his 9 to 5 and he went to Florida, and he like started this, not commune, but this space where people could go and breathe and meditate and do yoga. He was a big yogi. And so he set up this camp on this person's block, and they gave him permission to stay there. And then all of a sudden he just built this big, this big temple thing.
Right? Wow.
And then that, like, long story short, that turned into this huge organization. And it was this organization of just surrendering to life. not forcing things, allowing things to fall in alignment with your vibration. Right? For me to be like an example would be, right, I've got this big run coming, and it's like, well, everything's got to be to the T, or just run. Whatever happens, happens.
I
And
like that.
most of the time, if you just let it happen and you can see the affirmation rather than the negation, most things will happen for you and you'll get a lot more benefit from them. Even the things that are maybe a bit more adverse for us and happen for us, it's like, well, that was a great teaching moment.
Mm.
It sucked. It was a great teaching moment. And you always develop from that. So this book kind of goes through that. The second book's called Be More Pirate. And I just finished it. It was a recommendation from a friend of mine. And the book itself goes through the history of pirates. Now, today's society, we understand pirates as these like rebels, like sail the seven seas, kill, rape, pillage, this type of thing, right? But it goes close into the history of each individual pirate, and it tells a story about what they did.
So it's like, is this a kind of like a like a parable, like a made up story where they go into?
No, it's real.
It's real.
Yeah, yeah. It's like a recount or kind of semi biography of
Yeah,
these
cool.
pirates.
Cool.
And what the aim of this book is to get people to understand pirates weren't bad. Like some of the earliest movements for same-sex relationship recognition came from pirates. And it was the fact of the time in society that they're like, fuck no. The pirates are like, love's love. Like, stop being assholes, essentially.
Yeah, it sounds like I don't know too much about pirates, but there's been pirates for like so long
Yeah.
before like because pirates. I mean, you probably know more about them than I do, but they just live on ships in the water with no laws, and so essentially, to me, that's kind of like they're wanting that freedom
Yeah.
and unrestriction to just live life and do what they want.
On their own
Kind of
account.
like kind of hippie-ish, I guess.
Yeah.
Kind of rebelling against society and just living and doing whatever they want. That sounds to me like I'm pretty sure that's what the pirates were at one point.
Yeah.
Not this picture that everyone,
Nah.
not like the pirates that you see in movies, like
Nah.
Pirates in the Caribbean and that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no. It's and look, even that idea of rebelling against society is what society says. It's like creating a construct of that's against me. But it wasn't. Like you said, they were just like these free thinkers, free livers. More often than not, like if they had treasure, it was split evenly across the crew. When they got food, the captain would eat last. And like if they go to towns, they would be raiding. It was kind of like this Robin Hood thing: rob from the rich, give to the poor. And
Yeah.
that was pirates, and that was frowned upon because society, what we know now as the big names of who's running this world, like that's bad.
Mm.
That's real bad. But it was only because this construct was developed of it's against society. But they were free thinkers, free livers, equal rights.
That's interesting.
Phenomenal book.
When is it set? Like when you said they kind of go through the different people that were on the pirate ship, I guess.
Yeah.
Is it set in a certain time period?
Different time periods. So the whole timeline is across all of the history that we know about specific pirates and leaders.
Yeah.
Like, and so it goes through some captains. It goes through some adventurers, but the idea of this piracy was still there. It inspired me that much that I went and bought a pirate flag, and it hangs from the front of my house.
Oh, sick.
I got this pirate flag that hangs from the front of my house. It's huge.
Do you remember who the author is?
Um,
If not, I'll just look it up and I'll put all these
in the show notes.
recommendations in the show notes.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I don't remember the name of the author.
Yeah.
Just slipped my mind. Yeah.
That's all good. So one more thing I wanted to ask you about self-development.
Yeah.
Kind of just generally, what do you regularly do in your either daily or weekly schedule to make sure that you're constantly learning and growing as a person?
Journaling.
Journaling?
Yeah. I have this innate ability to deflect that which I don't want to own up to. And so it's been conditioned into me from a very young age. And so it's like avoiding the shit sticking to me. And it's like things, and this is why Surrender Experiment changed my life, is because when I stopped doing that, like my world just changed. My external world started reflecting my internal and vice versa. So now every morning I get up, put pen to paper, and I write the things that are bothering me. And then I put myself in someone else's shoes. And then I go, all right, what role are you playing in this story now? And I was like, oh, shit. Like, it's like, you're an asshole. Or it's like, oh, shit, you could do better there. Or, oh, wow, be proud of yourself for that, man. That was rad, you know? And so I do that every single day. And that's been probably the catalyst for self development.
Cool.
Yeah.
I've just started. I've never been I've never been a big writer, like
Mm,
physical. I've just started journaling this year. Actually, I started doing it every day.
yeah.
I didn't set it as a goal to do it every day, but the habit just stuck and
Yeah.
I've continued with it
Yeah.
and I really like it. Now, what I do in my daily journal practice, I do it at the end of my day and I basically do a recap of my day.
Cool.
So I include basically like a debrief.
Yeah.
And I was going to well, I probably will do one soon. I'm going to do a podcast episode on doing a debrief and how that can um, help you.
Yeah.
So I include it in my journal routine and I basically just recap the day and I think back about, um, you know, what did I do in the morning, what did I do middle of the day, what did I do after work, what are the emotions that I felt.
Mm,
I kind of recap like, was there anything that went wrong? Was there any like what could I have done better
mm,
if something didn't go as planned? And I also include things that went well, like what was really good. And
yeah.
I include some gratitude
Good.
in that. And then I write down my tasks that I got completed that day. So instead of having like, I have tasks that I need to do, but then I write down all the tasks that I got done. So I have a list of everything that I got done in the day
Yeah.
because I find it's really hard to look at a to-do list or a
Yeah.
list of tasks and maybe you only get through half of them.
Yeah.
Seeing heaps of like unfinished tasks makes you feel pretty shit.
Yeah.
Like you've kind of haven't done everything you set out to do.
Yeah.
But when you write down everything that you did get done, I look at that and I feel much more satisfied
Yeah.
instead of feeling like, oh, there's stuff that I didn't get done.
Yeah.
I actually reverse it and look at what I did get done. And then I feel like, okay, no, I have done a lot
Yeah.
because that's my problem. I try and do too many things.
Yeah.
And so then I can look at everything that I have got done and I find that's really good. And anything that I didn't get done, I'll just reschedule for another day or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's then really good to see like at the end of the week, I do another debrief
Yeah.
and I look back at every day that I journaled and I look at all the emotions that I had throughout the week, all the things that I fucked up,
Yeah.
and I look at like all the things I could have done better, all the things that I got done,
Mm.
and then that's how I do my weekly summary. I do like a debrief of like what went well in the week, what didn't go well, what I could have done better, and then my focus for the next week.
Do you celebrate your goals, like your achievements as well?
Um, in what way?
Like if you set goals, right? Like I set some goals, or when I'm working with people, they set goals, and it's the little things that slip through that we don't celebrate. And it's like, all right, yeah, I'm achieving things. I feel good about that.
Mm,
But on a micro level, if we don't celebrate the micro things, then how do we get to the macros and go, holy shit, like that's incredible, right? Like I'm proud of me because of X, Y, Z. And so like, yeah, I wonder,
I probably don't celebrate the little goals enough.
yeah,
I probably don't.
yeah, yeah, that's important, you know, like to really get, because it's perfect. That's beautiful how you debrief and focus on the things that you have got done,
Mm.
because
And
people get caught up in that.
yeah, and that kind of debrief is something that I took from the military.
Yeah,
That's big in the military,
yeah,
and it's a good business practice,
yeah,
to do as if you're managing a team or whatever.
yeah.
Having a debrief that could be like a monthly meeting, or it
Mm,
could be after an event, or
yes.
like it could be weekly, it could be daily, but just a debrief and including getting feedback from your team or whatever.
Yeah.
So stuff from the military is actually really good
Yeah. Good
in
tools.
business or in personal life. And I just, I grab things from what I've learned in the military and
Yeah.
I apply it to my own life.
That's good.
Yeah.
I work just quickly. I work a lot with females in particular, and the common thing I see from mums specifically is like, I want to do this, this, and this. I just don't do enough, and I don't have enough time. And when we sit down and we put pen to paper and go, all right, show me what you're doing today. We get to about 10 o'clock in the morning for them, and I'm like, I'm out. Like, you do more than I do by 10 o'clock than I do in a day. Like, and that's where, acknowledging the micro things is important because, yeah, all right, it might not be towards your business or your practice or your hobby or whatnot, but some of the things you do in a day, especially like when I'm working specifically with these mums, it's like you've gone through World War III by 9 o'clock just getting the kids to school, and like you're not patting yourself on the back for that. Like, man, like it's almost, I feel like ringing them sometimes and going, hey, fucking well done. Like that was epic.
Yeah.
Now do the things that you can do, because micro, just celebrate the micro. Because we do have a tendency to go, shit, I didn't get that done. Oh, shit, I could have done that. And yeah, okay, maybe sometimes. But what about the things you did do and the things that you did well? It's good to accept yourself, love yourself in that capacity so that you can have gratitude for those things.
Yeah. It's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, brother. I appreciate you coming on the show. I've had a blast.
Yeah.
We've got to wrap things up. So before we sign off, where do you want to send people from here?
So you can check us out on Instagram or our website. So our Instagram handle is Harvest Becoming Human, HRVST Becoming Human. And our website is harvesttraining.com. If not, you can check me out. I've always got cool stuff on Instagram as well, William NJB. And yeah, we got a lot of cool things happening. We've got some seminars coming up. We're doing a national tour, so we're going to be popping up here, there, and everywhere. An online breathwork course, which is like super, super simple. Really cool thing. Yeah, that's pretty much where we hang out and do our thing.
Awesome.
Thanks
I'll chuck all those website and handles and stuff in the show notes.
Sick.
All right, thanks.
Thanks, bro.
All right, guys, if you enjoyed this, please take a screenshot and share it. I'd love to see who's listening. And also, please subscribe and give a rating on iTunes. Sending positive vibes to everyone out there. Thanks heaps for listening.